30 Haunting Photos of Gary, Indiana, the most miserable city in America. The abandoned Palace Theater in downtown Gary. Its painted exterior is part of the town's efforts to beautify the city and make its blight less visible. A Gary resident walks past the entrance to an abandoned shoe store on Broadway Street in the old downtown section of Gary. March 2001. Inside the abandoned Gary Public Schools Memorial Auditorium, circa 2011. As of 2018, about 75,000 people still live in Gary, Indiana, but the town is struggling to stay alive. Despite efforts to beautify the old downtown section of Gary, Indiana, it still resembles a ghost town due to its abandoned stores and few residents. High crime levels and poverty have been major problems for residents in the town. The abandoned Union Station in Gary, Indiana. Abandoned homes in Gary have infamously been used as dumping grounds for bodies of murder victims in the past. Resident Lori Welch boards up an abandoned home in October 2014. Police found the body of a serial killer victim left inside the empty house. Abandoned house at 413 East 43rd Avenue in Gary, where the dead bodies of 3 women were discovered in 2014. One unusual method that Gary has used to attract more people to the town is by highlighting its abandoned buildings and proximity to Chicago to draw the film industry. Segregation has long been an issue in Gary. The Froebel School, pictured, boycott of 1945 involved several hundred white students protesting the school's integration of black students. This photo was taken in 2004, before the abandoned building was finally torn down. We used to be the drug capital of the US, but for that you need money, and there aren't jobs or things to steal here, one resident told a reporter. Inside the abandoned Social Security building in Gary, Indiana. Aerial view of the Gary Steel Mills. The town once employed 32,000 steel workers. Overhead view of core makers as they make casing molds in the foundry at the Carnegie Illinois Steel Company in Gary. Circa 1943. A female metallurgist peers through an optical pyrometer to determine the temperature of steel in an open hearth furnace. Large crowd of workers outside the U.S. Steel Corporation mill in Gary. The Great 1919 Steel Strike disrupted the entire industry production across the country. Ford car crowded with female strikers in Gary in 1919. Strikers walk the picket line. Gary's population suffered a severe decline in the 1980s. A lot of its racist white residents moved away to avoid the growing number of black residents, a phenomenon known as white flight. Abandoned since the 1980s, the shell of former Carroll Hamburgers still stands in Gary, Indiana. Long-abandoned beverage distribution factory in Gary. The town is also peppered with abandoned homes, like this one. The City Methodist Church, once a pride of the town. It's now part of the city's decay, nicknamed God's Forsaken House. A defunct chapel in Gary adds an eerie air to the town's emptiness. In its heyday, Gary was filled with active churches and chapels. The town is filled with graffitied facades, like this former school marquee. A worn-down wig shop in town. Few businesses are left in Gary. Gary's former City Hall building.